We all believe we know things, of course. But have you ever stopped and wondered, what is it to know something? And can we ever be certain of what we know? In this video, we will explore the evolving concept of knowledge, from Plato's groundbreaking ideas to an enormous twist 2000 years later that challenged everything. By the end, we will uncover how it impacts our everyday beliefs. My name is Kevin, and I have too many interests, not enough time, and a drive to understand our world better. Before we start, we need to understand why defining knowledge is important, actually. Well, we need to define it and understand it because it's the first building block of our beliefs and our decisions. So it has major implication in our life. As Bertrand Russell, a famous English philosopher, said, there can be no doubt that some of our beliefs are erroneous. Thus we are led to inquire what certainty we can ever have that such and such a belief is not erroneous. In other words, can we ever know anything at all, or do we merely, sometimes by good luck, believe what is true? And that is the center of this discussion. And defining knowledge sounds extremely simple, but actually it's a very tricky question that many philosophers struggle to answer since centuries. What does it really mean to know something? Plato defined what knowledge is in 3 parts. If you don't know yet what those parts are, pause the video and ask yourself, what could it be to know something? Which parts do you need to be sure that you actually know something? Plato believed that the first part was to actually have a belief. Because of course, you first need to believe something to actually know it. For example, I believe that there is a moon around the Earth. The second part is that this thing should actually be true, meaning that it corresponds to reality. Because of course, if I believe that there is 2 moons around the Earth, well then, I cannot know it because it is not true. But Plato was not fully satisfied because he said, I can believe that there is 1 moon around Earth, but I could just be lucky because it is true. It could have been maybe 2 moons, maybe 3 moons. I just had luck. And so he added the third part, which is justification. We need to have a strong justification connecting the belief to the truth. In my example, it could be that I only ever saw 1 moon and not 2. And that is a strong justification that connects my belief to the true statement. And Plato said when those 3 criteria are met, then you don't only believe, but you know something. And most people were happy with that, and it went on for centuries. Until 1963, where something crazy happened. Edmund Gettier, a not-so-known philosopher at the time, published a 3-page academic paper. And in this academic paper, is shown with a few examples that the 3 parts defining what knowledge is from Plato is not sufficient to cover random luck for knowledge. So now, what did he actually find out? Well, let me give you 2 examples. The first example is the example of the sheep. Imagine that you're walking on the countryside and you see a bit far away some kind of form and you believe that this is a sheep. But as you go closer, you realize that it is not a sheep, it is simply a rock. But unbeknownst to you, behind this rock there is actually a sheep. That is a funny example, right? And it shows that the 3 conditions of Plato's definition of knowledge are actually fulfilled. You had the belief that there was a sheep, you had a strong justification for it because you saw a lot of sheep in your life and they looked like this, and there was actually a sheep. It was true, but it was not the rock that you saw, but some sheep behind it. And even though the 3 conditions of the definition of knowledge by Plato are fulfilled, you wouldn't really say that you knew that there was a sheep, because it turned out that it was random luck, that it was true. I know. Let me give you a second example. Imagine that you're walking in your bedroom and you see a clock. You use this clock for years, and it always shows perfectly the time. You look at it, it says it's 12 o'clock. Now it turns out that this is actually 12 o'clock in reality. But you didn't know, but 24 hours before, the clock actually stopped. And you were just lucky to pass by at the exact time 24 hours later when it was 12. Well, again, could you say that you had knowledge when you looked at the clock? It seems that this knowledge is simply random luck. And again, the point of Plato was to exclude random luck from our knowledge. He wanted certainty. If his definition is not correct, can we ever really know something for certain? But maybe asking for certainty to define our knowledge is too much of an ask, because in our lives, we never have certainty. Can you recall once a belief that you had that was so strong that you were certain of it? Have you ever taken an action where you were certain that it would go a certain way? Well, at least that never happened to me. This issue put philosophers in a deadlock since this famous day in 1963 where this paper was published. But we need to go on with our lives, because in our daily lives, knowledge is pretty useful. So maybe we shouldn't ask for certainty, but rather reasonable assurance, because we need a functional concept that helps us to navigate our world on a daily basis. And the big lesson for me out of this whole thing is that since we cannot even define what knowledge is, maybe we shouldn't be so certain of our beliefs. Maybe we should be humble and try to be more open to other beliefs. So the traditional view of knowledge has been challenged, but it doesn't mean that we should stop living now. We can adopt a more flexible and pragmatic approach to knowledge that still help us to guide us, make decisions, and having beliefs. And on top of that, it teaches us to not be fully convinced in our beliefs, but rather to be open to new information. So what do you think? Do you think that certain beliefs that you have are actually certain? And are you challenged by this idea of randomness defining our knowledge? Additionally, now that we know about this uncertainty about our knowledge, how far should we go with our doubt? Should we still trust our knowledge, or should we doubt every part of it? In the next episode, we will see where knowledge comes from, because it must have come from somewhere that you currently know something. Is it everything that we experienced? Is it the impact of our environment? We'll find out. See you on the next one.